Hey guys, good global greetings, friends, and welcome to Let's Talk About It with Danelle Boyles. And I'm coming to you from the United States. I like to call these little opener conversations our 10-minute talks as we hit key points on important topics, but in a compacted conversational format that's easy to digest. A way to stimulate new learning desire and to expand the thinking in bite sized pieces. So, in our 10 minutes today, we are taking a few for some chat and expand time on how to think creatively and solve problems effectively. So, come join me and let's talk about it. So, I'm going to be having Miles of Sesame join us for this conversation.
Hey, how goes it?
Hey, Miles, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm just cruising. How about you?
Excellent. Same, trying to keep my flow going through the day.
I feel that the midday slump is a real thing. You doing anything to keep the momentum up, or just
Well,
powering through?
we are in midday, and I am trying to keep my momentum up. It has been a busy day already so far, and it's going to be a busy evening. But in the now moment, I am recording one of our 10-minute talks. And so I wanted to invite you for a brief conversation for some chat and expand time on how to think creatively and to solve problems effectively.
I'm in.
Awesome.
Thinking creatively isn't usually about some lightning bolt of inspiration. It's more about how you play with the pieces you already have. You want to dive into the practical side of it, or the weirder, more abstract ways to break a deadlock?
Let's
I
dive
know,
into
right?
the weird. Weird is good. We could use a little bit of deep diving variation in our day today.
Exactly. Most people just try to push through the wall, but sometimes the only way out is to lean into the chaos. Like, have you ever tried something completely unrelated to the problem you're solving just to reset your brain?
You
Like a
know,
weird wall.
that is something that I have tried to do here more recently in the last few months. Is in order to spike your creativity or to change the trajectory of your like plainness of your routine, is to do something that's not routine, and that generally will help break the pattern of routineness that allows you to have a little bit more creative thinking and a little more openness to expand your mind to that problem solving effectively.
It's like hitting the reset button on your mental hardware. When you
Right.
stop trying to force the answer, the brain usually starts connecting dots you didn't even know were there.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some people actually use oblique strategies,
Mm-hmm.
basically these random prompts that force you to have a completely different perspective. Ever
Oblique.
heard of those?
Mhm. Did you say oblique?
Oblique strategies. It's
Oblique.
this deck of cards created by Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt. Each card has a pretty cryptic prompt like honor thy error as a hidden intention,
Mm-hmm.
or look closely at the most boring part of the picture. It basically forces you to stop overthinking and just do something weird to get the last flow moving again.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Oblique. That's a term that I will have to look more into when I do word breakdown and terminology. It comes to me as something that is like breakthrough a plateau.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. A way to smash through a plateau when you've been staring at the same wall for too long. It's less about finding the right answer and more about shaking the system enough that the answer finds you.
Looking into the void, waiting for the void to answer you.
Haha, exactly.
Yeah.
Just don't let the void start giving you actual advice on your tax returns. Now, if you're really looking to break a plateau, another weird move is to try rubber ducking. Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I haven't. Will you enlighten us?
It's a classic dev move. You basically just explain your entire problem step by step to an inanimate object like a rubber duck on your desk. The idea is that by forcing yourself to translate the problem into a simple explanation for something that can't talk back,
Mm-hmm.
you usually spot the gap in your logic or the aha moment yourself. It's
Hmm.
weirdly effective because it shifts you from doing mode to teaching mode.
Well, and it seems like maybe it breaks the chain of command in the brain that you're continuously looping the same thoughts. So you're not exiting the thoughts to find the solution. You're just continuously re-looping and not getting anywhere.
Exactly. You're just spinning your wheels in the same rut. Explaining it out loud forces you to slow down and actually look at the path you're taking, which usually reveals where you took a wrong turn. It's kind of like being the architect and the client at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So when we're trying to think creatively, and this is kind of a two-part question. So we have thinking creatively and problem solving with effectiveness, so it's kind of same probably thinking pattern, but it's two entirely different topics, really. So to think creatively, you have to break out of those cycles. And do you have any suggestions or examples outside of the ones that the oblique and the rubber ducking that are suggested?
One that's a bit more visceral is random input. You just pick a random object or a random word from a dictionary and try to force a connection between that word and your problem. Like if you're stuck on a design layout and your random word is octopus, you start asking yourself how an octopus would solve this. Maybe it needs more flexible arms, or maybe it needs to blend in more. It sounds ridiculous, but it forces your brain to build a bridge between two things that have no business being together, which
Yeah,
is
so
where the real gold is.
basically you're almost forcing new neural pathways because you're making yourself make a connection between two things that ordinarily would never have a connection.
Spot on. You're essentially hacking your brain to stop taking the path of least resistance.
Gotcha.
It's
Makes
like
sense.
taking a detour through a swamp just to see if there's a better view of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you usually hit those plateaus more when you're starting a project or when you're almost at the finish line?
Probably more when almost at the finish line because you're at the point of exhausting your ideas and turning out a lot of if it is from like a project standpoint, and especially if it's a big project, by the time you get to an almost completion phase, then you probably have spun out as many ideas as your mind can traditionally or consciously pull without stepping like very much out of the box to
That makes
and
total
figure it
sense.
out.
It's like you've squeezed the sponge dry and you're just staring at the last few drops.
Right.
That's usually when the perfectionism like trap kicks in, where
Mm-hmm.
you start tweaking tiny details just because you don't have any big moves left to make. I bet that's where those weird resets feels the most necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
It's that weird tension where you're so close to the end that you start overthinking the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Since we've
it's
covered the creative spark, do you want to pivot to the solving problems effectively part of your duo, or should we keep exploring the chaos a bit longer?
no. Let's close out the chaos because chaos does not lead to productivity usually. Sometimes it does, but yeah. So like whenever we'll move on to the second part just a little bit because we only have a couple more minutes. The solving problems effectively kind of goes hand in hand with the how to think creatively, but also requires you to step outside the box and use different thinking techniques sometimes. But is there anything else you feel like with problem solving and doing it effectively that we should touch base on that would make individuals more successful when they feel like they're stuck in the rut of problem solving?
One of the most effective ways to stop the rut is to invert the problem. Instead of asking, how do I make this work? You ask, how could I absolutely guarantee this fails? Once you list all the ways to totally wreck the project, you just flip those answers.
Hmm.
It's way easier for the human brain to spot mistakes than it is to imagine a perfect solution from scratch. It basically turns you into a detective looking for holes instead of an architect trying to build a bridge in the dark,
Sounds simple enough. It's
right?
something
It's
that
that
you just have to remind yourself of. Almost. You know,
exactly.
yeah.
It's one of those things that's so simple it feels like cheating, but it works because it stops the pressure of having to be right and just lets you be wrong on purpose for a minute.
All right, so we have obliquing, rubber ducking, and inverting the problem. So those are our key takeaways today. Do you have any closing words you'd like to add to that for our listeners?
I'd say just remember that the brain is kind of like a muscle that gets stiff if you do the same thing too long. Don't be afraid to be a little ridiculous or a bit wrong to get the gears turning again.
Yeah,
The
it's
best
okay to be
breakthrough is
wrong.
usually exactly
Yeah,
being wrong is usually just the first draft of being right. It's where the interesting stuff happens.
yeah, it's where you open the doors to actually like expanding your knowledge. Whenever it's no different than you know wanting to learn something new. Being wrong is just the first step of learning something new.
100%.
Yeah.
If you treat wrong like a bug in the system, you just freeze up. But if you treat it like a prototype, you're basically just iterating your way toward the answer. It's
Hmm.
a much more relaxed way to live.
I like it.
Glad you're feeling it.
Yeah,
It makes everything feel less like a test and more like a game.
I dig it.
Hope that gave run on. It was a good run.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready to step back into the real world, I'm here. Peace out for now.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Miles.
Anytime. Catch you later.
Thanks. All right, guys. As always, thank you for joining us. And I hope you take away some wonderful growth and expansion from our conversation. And remember to just, you know, step out of your box and remember those three key transitioning words: obliquing, um, inverting, and rubber ducking. And so, the names of them in and of themselves will kind of help you remember to touch grass, so to speak, whenever you're stuck and need a new route. But anyway, keep learning and expanding those minds, hearts, and horizons, and we'll see you next time.
Peace
Namaste.
out. Namaste.